My name is Abel. I'm with TwoLaunchTrunk.com. I'm here with Jeff Farley. Are you there, Jeff?
Yeah, I sure am.
All right, great. We'll start off just pretty much by starting off getting the ball and picking it up and running with it. For those who may not know, your history with your work, what other projects have you worked on aside from Full Moon or the Puppet Master series?
I started out very young in the industry. The first project was Kingdom of the Spiders way back in 1977 when I was just 14 years old. But other projects would include I did a bunch of shows for Charlie Band back in the 80s when it was Empire, and I did shows like Cellar Dweller and Arena, Prison, shows like that, and then did a show called Babylon 5 for a while. Supervised on season for that and all the TV movies. It was nominated for an Emmy Award for one of those, and I don't know, a bunch of other shows, ranging from shows for David Coulter like Leashes and all the way up to more recent things like Pop Thunder and 213 and what's the most recent thing? Universal Soldier, The Reckoning coming up, and I just worked on Return of the Killer Shrews and Leprechaun's Revenge for Sci-Fi Channel, so all kinds of stuff. Oh, I did a few shows for Sci-Fi Channel like Stanley's Lightspeed also, which was a very cool experience. I mean, I could go on much further, but it's like it would eat up the entire interview.
Yeah, yeah, it's because I was looking through your IMDb page and it's quite filled with a lot of memorable stuff that I would watch as a child or growing up, especially did you work on one episode of Tales from the Crypt or several?
There was only one episode called Corman's Calamity, and I was working for Tom Woodruff Jr. and Alec Gillis over at Amalgamated Dynamics, and they brought me in for might have been 2 episodes. I don't remember if it was 1 or 2 episodes I worked on, but I remember working on the creatures for the Corman's Calamity episode quite a bit, and I guess we're getting a credit for that particular one.
Oh, I was also looking at it's because I have the DVD, but you worked on Blood Dolls, correct?
I did. Chris Bergschneider and I both.
But in Blood Dolls, how old were you, if you don't mind me asking?
The year was 98, I think, because I was nominated or was it in 99? 98 or 99, I can't remember, but it was nominated for an Emmy right in the middle. That's when I was nominated for the Babylon 5 episode. And so it must have been, so it was like, I don't know, my 30s or something like that. I can't even count right now.
Oh.
Yeah, somewhere in my 30s.
Was that the first time working with doll or puppet-like creatures?
No, I had actually worked for John Beekler. I'd actually been, I've been working in the industry for a while, like kind of on and off between 1977 and 87. I was kind of working part-time. I'd be working for my dad's shop, and then I'd get jobs on some makeup, so, working on a commercial or something, trying things. But in 87, I started working for Lance Anderson for some Serpent in the Rainbow, and then after that finished up, I went to John Beekler's, and I was there for about 8 months. And one of the first things I remember we did was a music video for Ghoulies 2. And I got picked to do the physical lead for the video, so that was kind of a fun time where we're working with Lost and doing that song "Scream It Till You Like It," which is the theme song from Ghoulies 2. But it was a load of fun. I mean, we shot the video in like 23 hours, and it was me and the crew from MMI, and oh my God, it was such a wild time back then. We were just all party or a parade out, and it was nuts, and just, we were having a lot of fun at that time, though. We just had the greatest time at that point. Um, so, um, so yeah, so I've had some experience doing some puppeting things, and of course, along the years, just working on various shows, something would come in that would be some sort of puppet. So, but I think the first real one may have been Blood Dolls. It's hard to say, because I think the first show that we did for Fullman, the first time together officially, was The Killer Eye. And we did Blood Dolls sometime after that.
For those who may not know, what is the difference between makeup effects, special makeup effects, and special effects on a movie credit?
The difference that I have found, and a lot of it came from when I was a teacher, and looking at some of the professional texts and manuals and stuff, is a special makeup effect entails anything like a slight facial alteration from making a busted nose or a black eye, or things that sort of affect the human face, but in a subtle and minor way. When you get to, and pretty much like all makeups and things like that, prosthetics, and but the special effects makeup falls into the realm of where you start adding in things like blood effects and bladders and mechanical devices and gags and things like that. And then a special effects gag, which kind of runs the gamut. The special effects is a generic term, which almost could mean anything. It traditionally would be more like physical type of effects, and puppeting would be sort of under that, or puppeteering would be under that sort of jurisdiction.
So it's more like a gray area. It could go any which way.
It kind of is, because we do techniques that fall under a lot of different, even union jurisdictions. Mm-hmm. And so we were really kind of an untapped workforce in a lot of ways, because there are effects guys that are in the union, and that's pretty commonplace, but there's a lot who aren't also. There's a lot of freelance people, and I am not affiliated with the union, really. I'm a freelance, working effects artist, and like anybody else, it's working means maybe 60% of the time.
And to be honest, I wasn't too sure if you were willing to, because I was looking at actors, directors, producers, special effects, puppeteers of all the series of Puppet Master and Full Moon, and until Elizabeth, I can't pronounce the last name, but she was being persistent to get in contact with you, and I was, to be honest, a little intimidated.
Well, that's so amazing. It's like, yeah, absolutely. And then the funny thing is a lot of us are out here willing to, kind of freely chat about our experiences, and sometimes we don't know who to contact, about who's interested, it's, because, most of the time I don't go around talking about this stuff, and believe me, I do get enough, contact from fans who would love, nothing more than me to just, talk endlessly about working on, Puppet Master, but, it's one facet of my career, and I've done a lot of other things, and I'm of course happy to speak with anybody who's interested, because that's how it was when I was younger, and and I was hungry for any information I could find, and that's when I started contacting people myself who were in the industry, like Dennis Mirren and David Allen and Jim Danforth, and I was able to contact them, luckily fairly easily for me, because I ended up spending a lot of time hanging out at Forrest J. Ackerman's place when I was a kid. So, so I had a fairly lucky upbringing that kept me in very close contact with a lot of people who, you know, have had quite interesting careers themselves. And I just sort of very, very lucky to end up being in the position that I'm in, which by no means is the greatest position, but at the same time, it's something I truly love, and I would do anything else.
I know you had mentioned that you had started working at the age of 14. What made you pursue it, like full-time?
Because it was the only career that I thought I'd be interested in doing. I mean, I worked for my dad's sheet metal company for maybe, 10 years or so, and I had a few other, kind of jobs here and there. I mean, nothing too serious, but I was always interested because I got bit very early. I must have been maybe 5 or 6, maybe earlier than that, when I saw King Kong, and then I saw bits of Seven Voyages of Sinbad, and I'd see things on TV that would fascinate me. Then my grandparents, my parents, would take us out to see the movies, and every once in a while we'd see a horror film or something with effects in it, and that'd be fascinating. And then we went into Aurora model kits, and then found out about famous monsters of filmland, and Ray Harryhausen became my hero and idol, and who I met. As a matter of fact, the night that I met the guy who gave me my first job in the industry was the night I was meeting Ray Harryhausen at Farley Ackerman's. And so, that sort of really spurred me on. I was around, I think, the right people that would help to, influence me. And I think that's one of the biggest things. For people who aren't in that position, I think the drive is maybe a little more than me in some ways, because, they had to work a little harder to get their way into it. But there's a lot of people in the industry who have gone quite a ways from very humble beginnings. And that's quite an accomplishment.
Now we're going to jump into the Puppet Master portion. Is that okay with you?
Sure. No problem.
All right. How was the role Retro Puppet Master presented to you?
We had, Chris Bergschneider and I had just finished working on, The Killer Eye. It was the final night of our 4-day stint on the movie. The movie was shot in 4 days. So, but Dave Dakota said, "Hey, I love the work you guys did, and I want you guys to do my next show." We split it for a few months, but he says, "We're going to go to Romania and do retro, or do the next Puppet Master movie," but he didn't say what it was. And so it was maybe, I don't know, it was maybe it was a few months. I know it had to be at least a few months before, or maybe a couple months before something, that we found out that we were going to be creating new puppets. And that got us really excited, because, it was sort of a chance for us to sort of add in our own thing into it, because they planned on doing this entire new, feature, and it required all new puppets, and Charlie was spending, I don't know if he's spending more money on the show, because the script actually was quite good. There was quite a few things in that script that was not actually they were not able to do in the film because of just time and budget. And if it was shot as the script was, if the money and time were there to do it, it would have been a really pretty amazing film. It was, like I said, I really liked it a lot. And there was all kinds of little details that we just never got to pursue that made it very special. But it was a cool film, in a lot of ways. It's very cheeseball in a lot of ways. And believe me, I think when we shot it, I think it was a 12-day shoot, or it might have been a 12 or 15-day shoot. I can't remember. We shot it over Romania at the tail end of the Witch House. So we sort of one show blended into the next. We spent, what was like the Witch House, I think, was an 8-day shoot or something, and then we went right into Retro Puppet Master and shot all the way up to Christmas and came back, and then in sometime early 99, I think, or so, we shot about 3 days of pickups. Oh yeah, I was already around, at that point, and having already been working for Charlie Band previously for Empire, I knew that was about, and that the Puppet Master film was being made, and I even knew the guy who was handling the makeup effects, and I knew that David Allen was doing it. I just merged with the fact that David Allen being one of my mentors, as I was, entering the business, I sort of privy to all that information, but I never really did a lot of work for Dave, with the exception of when we went to Romania to shoot the Primevals. But other than that, I mean, Dave really, I'll be honest with you, I thought the film was really fairly mediocre in a lot of ways, but Dave did such great work with the puppets that really transcended the rest of the film and made it seem really special.
On that note, were you familiar with the previous Puppet Master films? Were your initial idea to, resemble the original puppets or have your own spin to it?
You're talking retro?
Yes.
That actually came directly from the Full Moon designs, which were apparently the original designs from the first film that somehow never got made that way. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of except for there's one character which had, I can't remember what it was. It had a kind of weird looking mouth with a kind of four kind of sharp teeth in it or something.
Retroblade.
Maybe, I don't remember which one, because we never made him for that, but he was part of the original. There was like a Hitler one too, I think, that we never did. The Hitler, I think, became Dr. Death. Mm-hmm. But I think that one, the one that became Dr. Death, I think was originally like a Nazi type character or something. But apart from that, they were pretty much the designs from the original Puppet Master film. But for some reason, Dave Allen kind of took those designs that Charlie had presented to him and set them aside and went ahead and did his own thing. So we were given the challenge of not a lot of money. It was a fairly okay budget for the time, and we were also doing it currently with the show Witch House. So, combining the two budgets, it made it enough so that we were able to get the job done, and so those designs, like I said, were pretty much theirs. I mean, I think if anything, the sculptures maybe reflect a little bit of my influence, because I sculpted all the heads and Chris did the body, the basic generic body that was used for all of them. And but I tried to keep as much of that original design as possible.
Okay, yeah, because that was one of my next questions or follow-up. that if you agreed with the fans that there's a couple or handful that said that they were getting tired of the old designs of David Allen.
Well, it's funny too because if you watch the behind the scenes interview with me and Chris on the Retro Puppet Master DVD, I say the same thing. I kind of like jokingly have it. It's like the first thing I think that comes out of my mouth is, man, I was really getting tired of those old puppets. Chris like practically busted the gut because he didn't know I was going to say it. I didn't even know I was going to say it myself, but I was kind of half joking because I'll be honest with you, they're such classic designs, and believe me, I mean, I love Dave's work. Dave, like I said, Dave was a mentor of mine because I've known him since I was 13 years old or so. You know, pretty much up to his passing, and you know, so you know, it's I can understand though, kind of the desire to see something new. So I think maybe Retro came about at the right time. I think the idea was to continue the series, but as I don't know, as things turn out, I mean, for some reason it never did. I understand that it did really good, you know, numbers in terms of video rentals and stuff like that. So, but for some reason it never, you know, came about as something that Charlie pursued as a you know, as a franchise on its own. But you know, but then again, you just kind of see, you know, what's going on with the series as it is lately. So.
No, and it's funny because Retro Puppet Master, it was just one film, but for whatever reason, fans really warmed up to the new puppets, and now they're releasing, you know, the 1x1 scale replicas of the Retro puppets, and it's just amazing because from that one film. Don't get me wrong, you know, people fans were just slightly confused saying, okay, what happened to the original ones? Like, well, what? Then as years went on, it just, off that one film, just sparked something and started becoming slightly more famous over the years.
You know, it makes me very sad that I don't have those molds anymore. Yeah, I don't even know what happened to those molds. I think, you know, no, I can't recall what happened to the molds. I had them for a long time, and then I don't think maybe they got blown out or something, and never returned. Maybe they went back to Full Moon, and maybe that's how they're doing these things. But these new replicas. But you know, to be honest with you, I don't even have a part of any of those. I mean, Charlie. I mean, yeah, he paid us our salary at the time, and you know, it wasn't you know, the top dollar, but it wasn't, you know, chump change either at the time. But you know, it would be nice to actually be part of a little bit of that money generation from these old characters and stuff, especially the ones that were involved in it. But I understand in a lot of ways if he did that with me, he'd have to do that with everybody on everything, and that gets pretty, you know, pretty messy right there, and I think a bit of vanity in some ways that, you know, there's only one creator, and he shall reap, you know, all of the benefits.
Uh-huh.
But that, I guess, at this point, neither here nor there. And like I said, it was all pretty darn enjoyable at the time, and then look back on it. And I think that's the important thing is at the time we were making these things and just having a lot of fun doing them and working on, you know, kind of, you know, making these neat characters, and that for me was that and a trip to Romania. You know, that was you know, that wasn't too bad in itself. So.
If you don't mind, I would like to touch on Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys. You already know what I'm probably going to get to.
It was crap. I don't know. It's just so universally known. It's just like, matter of fact, I have all of those puppets downstairs right now. You know, I've got a couple of souvenirs left over from the show myself. You know, it is what it is. So what do you want to know first? How it became such crap?
No, we'll slowly get to that. No, pretty much just kind of general. Like, were you familiar with the Demonic Toys series? I mean, because I know Charles Van.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I worked on the first Demonic Toys movie. I sculpted the grizzly, the large grizzly, the guy, the Mike Deacon of the suit. I sculpted the head for that. That was the job that John Giegler hired me to come over to the shop and do for him. So my roommate was working there at the time and stuff. I was working in another shop, but I had some free time, and John called me up and said, "Hey, can you come over and sculpt a bear head for me and make a mold and core the thing for me, and then we'll finish it up from there." So yeah, I was involved in the first Demonic Toys movie, and I was actually working over at Alchemy Effects on Android while they were also prepping Dollman versus Demonic Toys, and building all the big full-scale Baby Oopsie and Jack in the Box suits and stuff like that. So yeah, I was pretty well aware. Believe me, not much from the Full Moon universe passed me by. And like I said, I worked on the first Demonic Toys, and I was around, during Dollman versus Demonic Toys, and so I kind of seen all that stuff kind of formulate. But I can actually tell you, and then it was also, I knew that, Puppet Wars had been announced, and then, Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys had been announced, and kind of the consensus at that time, it was going to be done over like Mark Rappaport's, and because he was the main go-to guy for Charlie at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even maybe Alchemy Effects maybe Alchemy Effects may have had some early knowledge, because I think they were around when that whole series started to germinate over Full Moon in Charlie's mind. And but I remember in 2003 maybe, so when we were doing the William Shatner Full Moon Friday Night thing with Charlie for Sci-Fi Channel, we were given the script. We were actually told officially, you guys have the job, and here's the Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys script, and read it, do a breakdown, and we're going to start shooting in a few months or something like that. And we got kind of excited. At that time, we were going to shoot in Italy. We were going to shoot at Charlie's Castle in Italy, which is really strange, considering the script was littered with references to here in the San Fernando Valley, where we live, like street names and things like that have has nothing to do with the Italian countryside at all. So,
is that where Problem 1 originated from?
Well, I don't know, but the script that we were given, that Courtney Joyner had written, which essentially was almost the same script that we shot eventually, but this was like I said, in 2002 or 2003, I believe, when we shot the William Shatner thing with Charlie. But suddenly, everything went silent. From that point on, we heard nothing. As a matter of fact, there wasn't really even much work coming in from Full Moon for us at that point. Charlie, I don't know what happened at the point, but suddenly they started concentrating more on doing erotic movies and things like that, less effects-driven films, and I think maybe the movie films were being done too, and they were being handled through Rappaport's. So a lot of anything that he was doing, and then something was being tunneled through different places, and Chris and I weren't getting the work. In 2000, and it was in March of 2004, Chris and I both get a phone call one morning from Charlie, going, hey dudes, hey, we did it, yeah, we're making a movie, and it says, Bud, hey, it's like I sold the property to Sci-Fi, and I had the feeling there were sort of ulterior reasons why, because there were issues because of the Shatner show. I believe. So, but because Sci-Fi had this major commitment to release Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys, they continued with that deal. But Charlie said that he, had sold the properties to another producer, and that he had referred us to the guy, and apparently sold us to him. And it was a guy named Jeff Franklin, and Donald Kushner also had been working with us on a lot of the Full Moon properties. As producer, was also involved in it. So next thing you know, and here it is, and suddenly a couple of years later, so we have the show again, and it's finally a go. And believe me, it was a pretty fast go, because I think we really started ramping up around May. It took a couple of months for the deal to get worked out, for us to go over the design and read the script and try to figure out what we're doing, and try to come up with a reasonable budget that would still work with us. But we got it, and we had about 5 weeks to build everything over here in the States, and then ship everything to Bulgaria. And we were supposed to shoot the movie in 18 days, and it ended up being 24, just to give us an extra week of puppet inserts, because the shoot was just way too nuts, and the crew was a great crew, but they had just come off the tail end of 2 other back-to-back productions. So this was like their 3rd production in a row, and they were getting a little bit beat at that point. This was a pretty heavy-duty show.
Mm-hmm.
And also it had the extra added for the only show that it was the last produced show in a 3-picture deal that Jeff Franklin was doing, because it was Alien Apocalypse, Man with the Screaming Brain, and then Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys. And our show was the biggest show in terms of effects driven and complication and stuff, but we also had the shortest schedule. We had literally 4 months from shooting to delivery. You have to deliver a film to Sci-Fi like a month before it airs, and you have to meet that delivery date. So they worked like maniacs to get that show together, but we literally shot. It was literally 4 months from the point that we shot the film to the point it was actually delivered, finished to Sci-Fi Channel, and that was nuts. And that is one reason why the film really, I think, turned out the way it did, because there was just not enough time and money able to be spent on the film to make it better.
I'm not gonna lie to you. From a fan's point of view, the minute I heard about it, I was in high school, and I was very excited, and not just for myself, but over the years after I found out, the expectations were really high, as from fans, that is.
Yeah.
I mean, because like how you said it, in the 90s, it was already in talks. Charles Band had already said in the Video Zone, it's going to be released, next fall.
I mean, for years, I remember for years, he kept saying, it's going to be next year. Next year we're doing it. And, he did. He built up a lot of
hype,
of fan momentum, for that film. Yeah, I can understand.
And
I felt the same way.
Yeah, and I was, I was excited to see the cyborg puppets, but slightly disappointed on how it was rushed.
Yeah.
Like how you said.
Yeah.
But I mean, still, it was fun to actually see them. Like, oh, okay, this is the way they would look. But like how you were saying, if you had more time, I'm pretty sure like anybody, it would have come that completely different.
I had a really good crew. Yeah, I had a really good crew, luckily. I had Mark Showstrom sculpting with me, and Chris Bergschneider, who's running the lab, and Budberger was doing all the mechanical stuff. And, like a bunch of people. I mean, too many of them to really mention right now, but a lot of really good, people working on the show. And we managed to get it together. I mean, by the skin of our teeth. We shipped, puppets unfinished over to Bulgaria, and then we're literally day by day, finishing stuff. Sometimes, minutes before it went on set, one big disappointment though is, I mean, and you know, was I wanted to make the mechanical parts beefier, like the actual, you know, original toy designs, and we just never were able to really do that, you know, because some miscommunication and also time factors. And the guy that I had to do the stuff as a top-notch model builder, and this stuff looks great, but, you know, we'd love to, if it was, you know, the beefier designs, which I really did think looked cool and sort of unconventional. I think practically they would have been difficult to work with, because really a puppet in itself is fairly difficult to work with, especially when they don't have as many points of movement as they should have. But overall, like I said, I'm pretty pleased with what we did for the show.
Yeah, it's because many fans see a film as obviously as in its entirety. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Silent Hill, the film.
Sure, yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the game. I know the Team USA and the Japanese team, you know, they helped each other out. But visually, I love the way it looked. Score-wise, I loved it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
But as a movie, I did not like it. I mean, I was just disappointed. Not that I didn't like it, but I see a film for, you know, different, you know, the music, the special effects, the acting, the script. I mean, the storyline. You know, I break it down. I don't just judge it as a whole. But I do have to agree with you. You know, I did love the puppeteering, but a lot of like how I said, the expectations from a fan were just different. But you explained it. I mean, it's not that it was that's the way you wanted it. It's just that's what you could deliver.
Yeah, I can make a more simple explanation too. Like, I mean, we're really, like, all the Versus movies really weren't very good. I mean, Freddy versus Jason and Alien versus Predator and stuff. I mean, the way I look at it is like, well, I did one of the Versus movies, and it really wasn't as good as any of the other ones that came out. So really, I figure I was in good company. So, and like, actually, I just had to kind of go through the film again recently. To do some frame grabs, and you know, it's like, the film has it's kind of a weird innocence to it. It's not really horror in any sense. Ted Nicolau really kept the tone of the film light. Yeah, you know, it's like, I mean, I think in context, the closest that we got to work really with, you know, in the real Puppet Master world was, you know, a Legacy.
Well, I have three more questions, two on the record and one off the record.
Sure, no problem.
Me personally, as a fan, I want to thank you as, you know, sticking with Full Moon, doing your work, and, you know, doing what you did and putting up with what you had to, not just with Charles or with anybody else, but, you know, I as an artist, you know, I see how much work, time, and sweat goes into a project or one product, and I personally want to say thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, because the series was a big influence onto what I'm doing now, but I mean, I seriously want to get back to the fans, and, you know, you can type.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I just tried taking that step forward because Full Moon has really taken a shine to me by saying, you know what, they've donated a few things to me, and I've purchased a few things for myself. But just, you know, it's not for a private collection. It's literally to turn around and just give it away on the website.
Oh yeah. Oh cool.
So I'm a huge fan, but I'm a bigger fan as far as I shouldn't be the only one enjoying it. I want someone else to enjoy it as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Ultimately, I mean, we kind of do these things for ourselves in a lot of ways, but at some point you gotta give. You gotta give back. It's something I think I struggle with, and a lot of other guys in my position struggle with is, you know, am I, you know, worthy of getting sort of the attention I get for what I do? Because, I do it just because I enjoy what I do, and that's sometimes more than enough. But at the same time, I was encouraged, influenced, encouraged by others, and then it's flattering now that that I've been able to sort of do the same thing along the way, and that later on down the road, somebody that I or others influence will do the same thing for others. So that's that's kind of a very flattering position to be in.
Like I said, just thank you, and well, the two other questions is, and I ask this to everybody who I've interviewed. Do you have a favorite puppet that you prefer over the others? Let it be from any retro or the original.
I think Dr. Death.
Dr. Death.
I think Dr. Death was my favorite, and I think maybe the follow-up maybe was probably Cyclops.
I guess the final question is, do you have anything to say to the fans out there of the series?
I do. Keep watching them. Keep asking for more and better Puppet Master movies. I'm sure you keep asking for better ones. Support. Don't be too cruel to those of us who toil so hard to entertain everybody. And the things weren't perfect, I apologize on my behalf for Puppet Master versus the Body Police. But other than that, I do appreciate everybody's support, and I'm really glad you guys enjoyed that stuff.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeff. I do really appreciate you taking your time, especially today, to speak with me and talk about the series. And I know it may or may not have been easy for you to talk about certain things, but again, I want to say thank you, and hopefully, if you don't mind, I'll just keep in touch with you if that's okay with you.
Yeah, of course. You keep in touch with me anytime.